Do you have any SEO experience? If you don't, please feel free to say that you don't.
Welcome to Counterpunch. My name is Philip Thune. I'm the CEO of TextBroker, the leading place to get written content, and the commissioner of the Digital Marketing League. We are very pleased to have Jim Boykin, who's the CEO, founder of Internet Marketing Ninjas, great website for all kinds of digital marketing help, especially on the backlink side. And maybe more important, Jim is a champion, a past champion of the Digital Marketing League. He won the very first U.S. Digital Marketing League back in 2020. Jim, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Philip. I love your theme song as well. It's such a good headbanger song there.
It gets you going. It gets you going. All right. So the way Counterpunch works is I am going to ask Jim a question. He is going to have 1 minute to answer. I am then going to answer that same question. I also get a minute. Jim's then, that's round one. Round two, Jim's going to ask me a question. We're both going to get an answer. And then finally, round three, I will ask Jim a question. We both get that 1 minute to answer, and we will see who wins this episode of Counterpunch. We've known Jim for a long time. He's great. But I am not going to pull any punches in this episode. We've had an episode with Jim that you definitely should watch where we talk about digital marketing itself and some advice there. This episode is more about running a digital marketing business. And Jim has been doing that for, I want to say 20, how many years, Jim?
Over 22 now.
22 years. So you're getting advice from somebody who knows it, who's been doing it for a long time. And Jim, I think probably one of the most important questions anybody who runs a business is thinking about, whether it's a digital marketing business or not, is how do you know you're hiring the right person? You know you've got an open position, you found somebody, how do you know you're hiring that right person?
Wow, okay.
1 minute. You've only got 1 minute.
All right. How do you know? You don't really know. That's the thing. I guess you try and hire the best. We like people that we have a lot of former teachers, bartenders, waiters, Starbucks employees, like people that I know that can move fast. They're used to multitasking, and I know they can handle a lot at once. And so often that's who we hire because we train them from the ground up with what we do, which is a lot of the content marketing. So, but I think the next trick is once you hire, honestly, if we say hire 3 on one day, 2 of those, on average, I'm going to say 2 of those will be around in a month or 2. Like we're going to let 1 go on average. And the other one, how do I say, and there's a slight chance that the other one might go, often we hire 2, 3, 4 people at the same time, expecting that, someone's going to shine and someone may not. And I guess the trick is let the knots go as quick as possible.
So that's interesting. So your strategy is not to sort of hold out and say, wait, I'm going to wait for that perfect person. Your strategy is, hey, listen, the chance that I'm going to know who the perfect person is at the very start before they even start working for me is pretty small. So I'm just going to hire a bunch, figuring that the odds are in my favor. I'll figure out which one of that bunch is going to be the one that sticks around.
Well, not quite. I mean, we're still going through a lot of resumes and we're still looking for the right type of people. But when we bring them in, I think a lot of times, we're going to bring in a group of 3 or 4 and they're going to compete against each other. And if someone shines, hey, great, they're going to get all sorts of raises. If someone can't keep up, we're going to know quickly and let them go. So, it doesn't work for everyone. For some, it works great for others, it doesn't. But I guess if it's not working, we let them go sooner rather than later is something I've learned.
All right, Cassandra has put that 1 minute on the board. So my answer to that very same question, how do you know you're hiring the right person or how do you figure it out? and you know, I think hopefully people have read by now that interviews are actually not a great way to know if you have the right person. But I don't know, maybe if I'm still a little bit old school, I feel like, you know, if you approach that interview in the right way, you know, that can give you a lot of information. You know, one of the things you worry about with interviews or people worry about is, you know, are you just picking somebody who kind of looks like you or sounds like you? And I think that's one of the worst things you can do, right? So you have to enter that interview with an open mind. But I think for a lot of the positions we hire for, I think the resume and the background and getting that feeling from the interview that they've either done this job before or they've done the elements that are really important to that job. And I think you can ask a series of questions that kind of get around that. You can even ask a scenario, hey, if I put you in this scenario, you know, how would you react? So I still like that interview as an important piece of it. You probably, I'm making an assumption, but so I want to ask the question, you probably don't want to hire somebody who's got a lot of experience because you want to train them in the way you do it, right?
One of our questions on our applications when we have it out is, do you have any SEO experience? If you don't, please feel free to say that you don't. But if you do, talk about it. And of course, everyone wants to talk all about their SEO stuff. And it's like, no, I want to train someone from the ground up, actually.
That's interesting. All right. So let's see. Cassandra tells us that, Jim, you won that round. And the crowd goes wild. No, I think you're right. I think it's very different approaches. And I think we're going to get into this, right? Because I think my background has been different than yours in terms of the kind of businesses, the digital marketing businesses that we've been involved with. But Jim, your turn here. Round two, I think we got 1 minute on the clock. Your question to me, and I'll be the first one to answer.
Sure. I'd love to ask about, you know, the size of your company and what do you think the ideal size of the company, and there's probably not time for a follow-up. Yeah, I'll go with that. The size of the company I'd love to ask about. And what do you think the ideal size is? I've struggled with that over the years.
Yeah, no. And I like this question, Jim, because I've heard you talk about this before, so I know what your answer is going to be. I think with the companies I've been involved with, the companies I kind of like to be involved with, I think the size is you want to always be growing. And I think the growing that, you know, you want to be growing. And as a result, in most cases, that means growing the team. You don't want to be inefficient. And TextBroker has a really good example. At one point, we thought that it was really important to have internal editors. We write a lot of content. We wanted to offer what we call managed service, where we not only would offer the content writing, but we would then edit it, polish it, and kind of give publish-ready content to some of our bigger clients. And so we had this huge team of editors, and we realized, you know, that was not efficient. And so we kind of reversed gears, and our team size is actually smaller than it is today. But yeah, I think you want a team that kind of fits the amount of work you have, and maybe even a little bit lean. I like sort of trying to catch up, you know, to the growth of the business. All right, so my time is up. Jim, I know you're going to answer probably pretty differently based on, you know, those 22 years of experience running your own shop and what you've seen is the ideal size. But answer that same question, ideal size for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably different for every single company and every single CEO. And, you know, me being the 100% owner of the company, you know, for years, you know, I subscribed to the mantra of if you're not growing, you're dying. And so I kept growing. And at one point we had about 100 employees. And that was like 8 years ago. And that was more than I could handle. I didn't know employees' names. It was beyond what I could handle. And so, you know, we had our readjustment period, which was, you know, not a fun time. But we found that, you know, 40 to 45 people is kind of the perfect size for us. And we're actually doing more work now than we were when we were that 100-person company, and way better work, actually, which is interesting. So, you know, for me, I'm probably different than 99.9% of all companies. I want to maintain where I'm at. I like how everything is going, and my trick is maintaining it, you know, not taking on too much work and not having less work, but maintaining the good thing that I feel that I have now.
Got it. No, I think you're right. I think that is really interesting, right? That as a manager, you know what you can handle, and you've seen what happens when you go past that. So you've kind of brought it back to kind of that ideal size. So no, I think that makes perfect sense. I think I've run businesses that have grown really rapidly, 20 people to 200 people in a few years. And one of the things as a manager is you can't manage 20 people the same way as you manage 200. So you either are good at sort of figuring out the right management structure to kind of handle that, or you should sort of stay focused on kind of the size that you feel comfortable with. So I like that answer, but I'm going to wait for Cassandra to tell us whose answer was better. I'm a little surprised. I won that round, Jim. So it's it is 1-1. We're down to round 3. This is it to see who wins this episode of Counterpunch. And Jim, this is it. And Jim, it's my turn to ask you a question. And I think it's kind of a follow-up question. Given that you are comfortable with the size you've got, you like that team where you've had it there for years. How do you think about growth, right? As you said, growth at all costs is not something you believe in, but how do you think about growth? How do keep the team motivated, keep it going?
Yeah, we're in an interesting industry. I'm in an interesting industry in that we're doing the content marketing. It's a bit different than writing the content. For the marketing part, it's harder to scale it as well. At least the type of service that we do, it's really hard to scale. We've had some companies come to us and be like, we want to buy you and we're going to give you 20 times as much business. And it's like, nah, the whole thing would blow up. Like not even possible. Growth, I've been there. It was fun growing from just me for the first few years to, when I remember I quickly hired, there was 4 of us. There was a team of 4 for a couple of years, and then 8, and then 20. And, it really is a different company all along the way, and there are different challenges to get through. And, as we went up to 40, 50, and then from 50 it was, I want to be 100, and that run to 100. And then that, oh my gosh, this doesn't work. But going back to that lower period seemed easier for me. And so now it's just, hold that number, hold our perfect team. I think the average ninja has been with us for 8.88 years. So it's like, I'm happy where we're at. So if I can just hold everything happy, that's the goal now for growth, is just hold.
All right. Interesting. Okay. So Cassandra's going to put that 1 minute back on the clock for me. And yeah, my answer to that, is very different. And I'm always thinking about, how to make the company grow as fast as possible. And again, I think it's just different strokes for different folks. That's what makes things interesting to me. Every company I've been involved in, there are investors, right? I'm not, maybe I have a tiny ownership piece, but I'm not sort of the main owner. And so when somebody invests and gives you money, they expect a return on that. They want that return to be as high as it possibly can. I think, the world's changed a bit in the last few years. You hear this term stakeholder capitalism, right? You don't just do everything you possibly can for shareholders, right? That would mean not paying your employees what you should, or not doing the right thing when it comes to customers, vendors. So I think, I've always felt, even before this change, that doing the right thing for every stakeholder actually makes you grow faster. So I definitely want to give that caveat. But yeah, growth, not at any cost, but I think growth really helps. I think it's interesting for the employees as well. I'm going to go over. I know the crowd's going to be unhappy. I think it's interesting for the employees as well, because what's been maybe one of the most fun parts of my career is having people who started out as a client services rep, or somebody who was doing one of the entry-level jobs that we have. And, today they're a director of, a big piece of the company, right? So being able to kind of, if you have growth, if you're going from 20 people to 200 people, you're going to have those kind of positions open up, and you can kind of move them around.
Yeah, that's definite drawback to my company, is that right now there's not a whole lot of growth. Like everyone, you're where you're at. Yeah.
Well, Jim, I'm going to ask a follow-up question before we hear who won that round and the whole episode. So how do you have somebody who's been there 8.8 years on average, what are they motivated by, right? If they're sort of like, well, I'm not going to be the CEO of this company, right? Or I'm not going to run my whole division. How do you keep them motivated? Because I think that's a really interesting question.
That's, I do everyone's reviews. And one of our questions is, are you happy in your current position? And what I love is that, I think out of everyone's reviews, like 98% of everyone said they're happy in their current position, which is rare.
Yes.
It took years to get people that, I'm in this position and I'm happy with it because, normally everyone wants to move here and the grass is greener on the other side of a fence. And I've tried to show our company is not as much a hierarchy, but more a circle. If you move somewhere else, it's a lateral position. And if you're really good here and you move to this department, you're going to be at the starting pay on that position. And, the better you're at in a department, the more you're going to get paid there. But nothing is really, it's more a circle and less a hierarchy.
Right. That's interesting.
Is how I try and have people think about it.
Right, Jim. And I there's no doubt in my mind that it's a testament to your management ability, right? I think people, even if they really like their job, if if somebody's not letting them kind of have that room to do what they do best, they're going to get unhappy. They're going to look to move. So I think 8.8 years sort of a testament not only to your ability to find the right people, but I think probably your ability to manage them in the right way. All right, so we need to wrap this up. And Cassandra is telling me, oh, no surprise, that Jim, you won that third round. So congratulations. That means Jim wins this episode of Counterpunch. I'm not surprised. Jim is a winner. He won our first Digital Marketing League focused on the US. He won another episode of Counterpunch that we've done, which you should check out. That one is more questions about actual digital marketing, especially link building, which Jim is a huge expert on. And so if you want to hear more from Jim, I would recommend that you go to the Digital Marketing League website. We've got an hour-long presentation that Jim did, including some questions we had for him. Just go to Google and search for Digital Marketing League. You will find that presentation. You'll get a full hour of Jim, which I think is awesome. A lot of great information about the history of backlinks and kind of what you should be doing now. Jim, thank you again. I want to thank the audience for watching. If you have any comments, please leave them below. If you like this episode, definitely like, and most important, please subscribe, and you will be able to see any future episodes that we've got. All right, thanks, Jim. Goodbye.